Welcome back to Pest Profits, the pest control podcast for pest control providers who want to put more money in their pocket. Today we're going to talk about value being greater than time. Why pest control customers don't pay for minutes, but they do pay for competence. In pest control, we are often paid for our time. We are seen only as an hourly asset. I don't think that's a good way to see ourselves. I don't think it's a good way to sell ourselves. And because of that, we tend to value our service based on how long it takes us. So a lot of guys sell their service based on, if it takes me 20 minutes, it's this much. If it takes me 40 minutes, it's this much. If it takes me an hour, it's this much. That's how a lot of guys sell their time. Customers don't necessarily value us in that same way, at least not if you get the right customers. Value is really a mix of time, but it's not only about time. There's a lot of other elements that are mixed in there, especially in pest control, that matter just as much, if not more. And if you don't understand that, it will hurt your customer's confidence in you. It'll hurt. Your customer will not be satisfied. Their confidence will suffer. Your profitability will suffer as a result of that. You will shorten the term of the relationship that you're going to have with that customer. To be clear, this isn't about gouging your customers in order to make more money, but it is about maximizing their satisfaction with your service and therefore increasing your profit at the same time. There's a disconnect between time and value. A perfect example of that would be, most of you guys have had a customer at some point in time look at you and say, wow, that was quick. But if we were sitting in a room right now and I was to ask you, hey, raise your hand if a customer's ever told you, seems like that took you an awful long time. There's not a single guy in here that would raise his hand. There's not anybody listening to this that would raise their hand. All of us would say, no, my customer doesn't care if it takes me a long time. They only care if I am able to resolve the issue quickly. And so what that tells you should tell you something very important about the way that your customer perceives you. Your customer is measuring your time and not your results. And that is bad for everybody. It's bad for your customer at the end of the day, even though they may not realize that. Customers often expect you to spend more time, and you can spend as much time as you want, but if you're not getting a result, it really is not going to matter. And your customer at the end of the day is going to be upset that it took you so much time and they still didn't get the result that they were looking for, right? And so it's only going to make them more frustrated. More time doesn't always automatically mean more value. Less time does not always automatically mean less value. We need to shift that lens a little bit and maybe change the way that we think about it. And so instead of viewing your pest control company, your pest control work through the lens of time, maybe you need to start viewing it through the lens of the solution that you bring to the table, the value that you're bringing to your customer. And I know you're saying, well, it doesn't matter how I view it if my customer doesn't see it that way, but your customer is never going to see it that way until you start seeing it that way. So you've got to start seeing it that way. What does that mean? It means this. What we are really providing our customer is we are providing them with peace, with safety in some situations, but ultimately with the satisfaction that the concern is being handled. And if you will satisfy them that, listen, this may take time, right? And it may not take as much time as maybe they expect, but I'm here to handle the situation and I'm going to control this. That is really what the customer is looking for. That's ultimately what our goal is. Our goal is not to be the people that go out there and take the longest to service. And contrary to a lot of pest control technicians' method of service, it's not to be the fastest guy either, right? It's not even to be the least invasive, which often I think a lot of guys are trying to be. Sometimes the real solution to their problem requires involvement on their part. Especially if you do work like I do. I do a lot of work with property management companies. And so if you have tenant situations, a lot of times it requires the tenant's cooperation in order for me to be able to resolve the issue. So we have to show them that there's value in them cooperating as well, that the value is not just tied up in our time, how much time it took us to do this service, but there's value in them cooperating with us in doing this service as well. So how does value really break down? It breaks down like this. When you break it down in pest control, it comes down to, I guess I could rattle off a list of 10 or 20 things, but I think if you pulled it all into a very small bubble, I think it would come down to your ability to communicate with your customer, the result that you're able to provide them, and the proficiency with which you're able to accomplish that. A customer is not going to pay me more to spend longer resolving their problem, right? They're just not going to pay me that way. And so communication is what helps your customer to fully understand their issue. Communication is so key. In fact, in a couple months, I'm going to put together kind of like a webinar type thing on communication in order to try to help pest control guys and to be able to better communicate with their customers and build profit by doing so, because I think there's a serious breakdown in communication. When I first started in this industry, we used to talk about communicating with our customers all the time. We used to talk about how we were the professionals and that we should behave ourselves like professionals. And we really don't do that very much anymore. But communication was a part of that, being a professional, learning to communicate with your customer. And so communication is very important. Obviously, results goes without saying, but the result that you get, the resolution, the fact that you're able to actually get rid of their roaches, or able to actually get rid of their ants, or able to actually catch the rat, those things obviously are very important as well. But the proficiency with which you're able to do that is very important too. If it takes me 6 months to catch a rat, right, that would obviously be far more valuable in most customers' eyes, right? Based on time being money. Well, you and I both know that that's not true. And so you've got to help your customer to shift their mindset, right? When you hear that customer say things like that to you, right? Well, that was really quick. Well, if it takes me 6 months to get rid of your ants, are you going to feel better about it than if I can take care of them in 15 minutes? Are you going to feel like, hey, you know what? I found the right guy, I paid the right guy to get rid of these for me, right? So that's how you help to shift it, right? You obviously got to present that in the right frame of mind, but you can't just, right? You can't present it like you're being a jerk, but you do have to present it properly. But it is very important, right? A big problem in our industry is that we've accepted responsibility for things that we should not have accepted responsibility for. If you work for a company, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You have ended up going out to do a job and explaining to a customer what needed to happen in order for you to accomplish that, and had them tell you that they don't want to do that. They don't want to take everything out of their cabinets, or they don't want to leave their house for an hour, or right, you fill in the blank, because, right, you've been in this industry just like I have. You've heard something, right? You can fill it in with your own thing. But we've accepted responsibility for things that we should not have accepted responsibility for. And so it's made it difficult for us to accomplish what we're trying to accomplish. I can give you lots of examples of that, but if I go into a unit and they're having a problem with Oriental or American roaches, and I notice that the water heater is leaking, I could talk to them for hours about how to fix their roach problem, but the water heater's got to be fixed, right? Ultimately, what's got to happen is the water heater's got to be, they've got to fix that, right? In order to help me to accomplish what I'm trying to accomplish. And so, listen, I can't provide a real solution if the customer is not willing to cooperate with me. The way that I can get the customer to cooperate with me, obviously, is by communication. It's communication for you, too. The way to get your customers to cooperate with you is going to be communication. And so the value that you're adding to your customer, the way to get your customer to see the value of having you is often, believe this or not, is in explaining to them their responsibility in being able to help you. Right? How they can cooperate with you so that together you guys can resolve their issue. This is what IPM's been about since IPM arrived on the scene. Most of us probably know that. So listen, here's where the frustration comes in oftentimes. A lot of frustration gets created when, as a technician, right, or as a pest control company owner, I own my own paycheck basically. I'm running by myself. You don't communicate well with your customers. The boundaries, you're not communicating to them the boundaries of what you can do, right? We have boundaries, right? We have a license. There's rules and laws that we have to abide by. There's things we can do and things we can't do. We've got boundaries. They see the value when you present the boundaries, right, of where you're at. And I know you say, well, they'll just hire some guy that doesn't even have a license or is running without a license to come out and do whatever. They might, but they're also not looking for value. And you're looking for customers who are shopping for value, not customers who are shopping for price. And so also, right, communicating to them what they need to do to be able to help you to accomplish the result that they're looking for. German roach situations are perfect examples of that, right? If a tenant or a home, take everything out of their cabinets, I can't help them. It's going to severely limit what I can do for them. If they won't provide access to certain areas of their house so that I can inspect them, I can't help them. You're limiting my ability to help you. I can still probably do something to help you, but ultimately I'm not. You're going to hinder my ability to resolve your issue in a timely manner, and that's going to cause you frustration. It's going to cost me money, right? So how fast that control can be achieved is going to be reliant on how responsible, how much cooperation they're going to provide, right? A lot of techs avoid these conversations. They don't want the customer to get mad at them. If you're working for a company, you don't want them calling the manager and telling the manager, well, he told me that I need to do this and I need to do that. And I've never had a technician ever tell me that ever in the past at all, which is all lies. Your customers lie to you all the time about that kind of stuff, right? So a lot of guys just want to get out, right? Just be done with it. You've talked to people a million times. You've explained this to them a million times. You're tired of hearing yourself say it. And so you just don't want to say it to another person. And so you'd rather just keep your mouth shut, spritz the corners, and walk out. But you know that you're not giving them what they're paying for, which is the elimination of their issue. And they're not cooperating with you. And so ultimately, they're just throwing money down the drain. And I know that you think it's profitable to you because who cares? But at the end of the day, you probably should care because you're taking that customer off your books eventually, and you're going to take them off your books in a way that they're never going to come back if you don't communicate with them properly. If you're communicating with them in a way, and they still decide, hey, you know what, I'm not going to do anything, and they decide that they're not going to go with you anymore, a lot of times you get that call back because they've gone to somebody else, and that person either A, has told them exactly what you told them, or didn't say anything to them about that kind of stuff whatsoever. They've gone down this road a little ways, and now they realize, hey, you know what? Nathan was right. That guy was right. I should have helped him out. And so it helps to build that credibility, right? Reduce a lot of times technicians don't want to have these conversations because they're just trying to reduce stress in the moment. But reducing stress in the moment, we're in pest control works the same way as it does everywhere else in life. It very rarely leads to long-term stress release. All right. The long-term stress relief, I just realized I said release and not relief. Real long-term stress relief, now I got it all mixed up. Real long-term stress relief is brought about by having the right conversation, even when it's a difficult conversation to have with your customer. At the end of the day, it is destroying your profitability. It's destroying their trust in you. So you need to be clear about what their responsibilities are, what your responsibilities are, right? What can you as a pest provider do? What can you accept responsibility for? Always take responsibility for whatever it is that you can take responsibility for, but then be very clear with what falls on them as a customer. Listen, if I'm doing a commercial account and they're not willing to get a good stock rotation going, it's going to severely limit what I'm able to do. And that doesn't mean that I'm going to tell them, well, I just won't do your pest control for you. What it means is I'm going to explain to them, listen, I'm going to do what I can, but until you fix your stock rotation, it's going to limit the result. It's going to limit the effects of what I'm doing, right? So they fully understand that. I know that, listen, we can't go around moving everybody's furniture for them. We can't do all that stuff, right? I do bed bug jobs and people don't want to take their bed frames apart, right? As soon as you take that bed frame apart and you lose a screw or you break, right, something, it's suddenly a family heirloom that's irreplaceable. And I know that customer would never do that to you, and they might not, but you're in business. You got to remember that you're in business, and you've got to reduce your liability as much as you possibly can. Listen, it's weak results that lead to cancellations, and weak results are most of the time aren't even your fault, right? But on the flip side, they really are, right? They're your fault because you weakened the expectation on the customer's responsibility, and that weakened the result that you were able to provide, and that led to the cancellation when you could have just been upfront in the first place, right? So what happens when you don't do it right? Listen, when things are communicated correctly to customers, see you as a professional, right? Even when they don't like you, they still see you as a professional. If you communicate in a professional manner anyways. But customers start seeing you as a professional. They see you as an expert. You're going to get pushback. There's no doubt about that. But be professional, right? Be humble, but stand your ground, right? Listen, if you go to the doctor because you got lung cancer and the doctor looks at you and says, stop smoking, and you say, well, I don't want to stop smoking, just fix it. He's going to tell you, no, that's not the way this works, right? You've got to cooperate. And listen, in pest control, I know we're not getting doctor money, but in pest control, we have to be the same way. You've got to see yourself as a real professional, as really having the right answers. And if you'll apply yourself a little bit to it, right? And listen, I'm not perfect at this. I try really hard at communicating with my customers. And if you talk to anybody that I know or that has been on the phone with me while I'm talking with customers, they'll tell you, right? I try real hard to communicate well with my customers, to the point that I probably give my customers more information than they need oftentimes. But what I'm trying to do is to get them to understand this is more than me spraying your baseboards. Right? There's more to this than that. There's more to this job than that. So listen, if you weaken the process to avoid discomfort, right? You weaken the expectation that you have on them. You're going to weaken the outcome that you can provide them. Your customer is going to be dissatisfied. You're going to risk losing that customer. The difference between these two things, communicating versus being soft on them, or just being jaded because you've been in pest control for a long time. You've said this to 100 people, and 99 out of 100 won't listen to you. The difference is one of those paths is going to build trust and authority with your customer. The other one is going to make you disposable over time, right? Trust continues to increase over time. Their cooperation will continue to improve, and the results will continue to improve and come faster and faster as well. There's obviously a financial cost to all of this, to avoiding these hard conversations. It's costing you money on your paycheck. It's costing your company profit. As a technician, money. You've ever been a technician for any amount of time whatsoever? Even though I know the things have changed and system seems to be rigged against you, hopefully maybe by doing this podcast, I'll get super famous and one day I can change the way the industry runs, because I think it's crazy that technicians are making the same money now that I was making when I started in this industry a long time ago, over 30 years ago now, right? I think that's crazy. So, but you still know, right, that the money's in the production and not in the hour. And so you don't want to work more hours. You want to make more production. More time plus poor results equals less money. As an owner or a manager, you're paying out more hourly to a guy who's not getting the result. He's making less production because of it, because he's continuing to work on the same problem that you're only going to get that money one time for. He's frustrating your customers, and everyone's losing. Tech loses, the company loses, the customer is losing. It's a lose situation all the way around. As Michael Scott in The Office would say, right? There's win-loss, and then there's win, where we all win, right? And that's what we want to do. We all want to win, right? So listen, the hard truth of this, if you don't communicate properly, you're going to lose money. Your customers are not going to see you as being a professional. They will not see you as the expert. They're going to see you as a tool that they can replace because they don't feel like it's doing the right job. So they'll just go down to Home Depot. They'll buy another one just like it, and the next one won't do the job either. And they'll just keep replacing tools. You can become your customer's resource, right? There's a big difference between being a tool and a resource. A resource is something that is independent of the owner, right? And so you want to be a resource for them. You want to make a difference. So have those difficult conversations. Do it humbly, but have a steady hand. When you do that, you become that resource. You are not just another vendor. And being that resource is going to be worth the money in the long run. So listen, if you take anything away from this episode, it's this. Learn to communicate with your customers. Learn their personalities. Learn how to explain things to them. How to explain the solution. How to explain their role in that solution versus your role in that solution. You are one part of their pest control solution. You are not the entire solution. And if they won't participate, the process is going to be lengthened. They're going to be frustrated. They're not going to get the result that they're looking for. And listen, at the end of the day, communication is not optional. It is one of the strongest profit-building tools that you have, is your ability to communicate. Like I said earlier in the podcast, I'm going to put together some kind of a webinar on it soon. I hope that you'll come to that and I can help you to better communicate with customers. I hope this has been a help to you. I hope you'll like this, subscribe to it, pass it along to a manager, a technician, another pest control company owner that would be helped by it. That's all I want to do. I just want to help our industry to be a better industry. and help us to take that next step, man, and to get back to what we used to be. We used to be professionals, man. We used to drive by you and look at you like you hang out under an overpass and you crawl underneath people's houses or whatever. Listen, you're providing a vitally important to your community. Pest control is very, very important, and we should really take it seriously. And so I hope you will. And I hope that I've been a help to you. Like I said, pass this along. Hopefully we can get our industry back to where it should be. Thanks for joining me. I hope you'll join me for the next episode as well. Great day.